Hello and welcome to Sovereign Financials, financial education for everyone.
Hi guys, welcome back to Sovereign Financials. Today we're going to go over Bitcoin's price prediction by Plan B using his stock to flow model. First, we just want to remind you guys that that this is just a model. This is not investment advice. You got to do your own research, but it is a very interesting model, and so far it's looking to work out right for us. So this model is based on a premise called stock to flow, and stock to flow was well described in Saifedean's book, The Bitcoin Standard. I highly recommend you read it if you haven't checked it out yet. So it's based on a couple premises. So the first one is that Bitcoin is the first digitally scarce object in the world. So, before Bitcoin, anything that I sent you on a computer or a text message, if I sent you an image, you can just copy it or print screen, paste it, send it to other people. There's no way to limit the amount of an object that existed. And then in comes Bitcoin, and now you have officially have like digital scarcity, which never existed before. So with digital scarcity, then you have something like gold and silver that is scarce, but it can now be sent over the internet, essentially at light speed, which is a crazy new invention. It will probably revolutionize how we send money from place to place. So the stock to flow is based on the two components. The stock. Stock is the total amount of an object that is currently available for use, like the stockpiles or the reserves. So I'm going to first describe this in terms of gold, where the stock would be the total amount of gold that's above ground, that's already been mined, and is in the hands of people. And then there's the flow. And flow is basically the new amount of an asset that's produced on an annualized basis, which is just the growth rate. So the flow in regards to gold would be the new amount of gold that's mined every year. Now, how do you compare this to Bitcoin? Bitcoin, the stock, would be the total amount of Bitcoins that are currently out there, which now is 18.5 million. At the time that Plan B wrote this back in March of 2019, there was 17.5 million that were produced. And then the flow, the growth rate, is currently the new amount of Bitcoins that are being mined per year. That is, 6.25 Bitcoins every 10 minutes, or 0.325-ish million Bitcoin per year. And then scarcity can be defined then as the stock to flow. So the scarcity is what's the new flow compared to the total amount of stock that's already out there. Right? The less new flow there is of something, then the more rare it is compared to the current stock. So if we look at the stock to flow of various metals, let's start off with gold here. Gold has a stock, a total above ground, like people own 185 trillion, and the flow is only 3 trillion per year, which gives it a stock to flow. So you take the 185,000, divide it by 3,000, and you get a stock to flow of 62. So a very high stock to flow number. Silver has 550 trillion, and the flow is 25 trillion, so it's a stock to flow of 22. And then if you look at palladium and platinum, their stock to flows are much lower. So palladium only has a stock of 244 trillion. The flow is 215 trillion, which means that the supply growth is 88% per year. So 88% of new palladium is mined per year. And that's just because it comes in, it's mined, and then it's used for something else. So it's not a huge amount of it is not held in reserves. So its stock flow is only 1.1, which is nothing. And then same thing with platinum. The stock is 86 trillion, so very low in reserves. And the flow, the new amount that's mined per year, is 229 trillion, which is 266% of the amount of palladium that's out there is what's mined per year. Very high number, very low stock to flow of 0.4. So if you look at these numbers, comparing the stock to flows, the higher the stock to flow, the more of a monetary good it is. So gold has the highest stock to flow is 62, and gold has the highest market value for out of all of those, right? It's a very good monetary good. Silver is second with a stock to flow of 22, and then has the second largest market cap. So a high stock to flow ends up making it a good monetary good. Whereas if something is already in low stock but has a very high flow rate, so a very large inflation rate, then it's not as good as a monetary good and not a place that you want to store your value. Well, you can use the same kind of model for Bitcoin. So in 2019, when Plan B wrote this, the stock of Bitcoin was 17.5 million and had a flow, which is a newly produced Bitcoins, of 0. 0.7 million per year, which gave it a stock to flow of 25, which means its stock to flow was just slightly higher than silver, which meant it was a decent monetary good. And its ability to be a monetary good is only going to get better after every halvening. So every 4 years, the newly amount of Bitcoin that's produced gets cut in half, and we'll go over that in a minute. But if you look at this here, he basically plotted a graph of the market value, and then he has gold and silver on here, as well as Bitcoin on this linear regression, and the stock to flow, which is the scarcity. And you can see here that the price of Bitcoin linearly regressed, really matches its own stock to flow. And what's interesting is silver and gold also fit along the same graph. So the correlation for this had an R-square value of 0.947, which is a very high R-squared and likely not to be due to chance alone. There is some other statistical analysis that we're not going to go into about how you determine if it's due to chance alone or not, but it probably isn't. Then he created a price model here. So he plotted the stock to flow model, which is the black line here. And this black line, you can see that it shoots up during the halvening. So every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that's produced every 10 minutes gets cut in half. So the stock to flow has these really abrupt changes where the black line just gets cut. And then it kind of evens out. The next 4 years later, the amount of flow gets cut in half again, and then 4 years later it gets cut in half again. So he plotted what the price should be based on his stock to flow model, where you take the stock to flow, which at the time was 25 for Bitcoin, and you take it to the power of 3, and then you multiply it by 0.4, and that gives you what his model says the price of Bitcoin should have been. And then he plots the actual Bitcoin price on it, which are all these different colored dots. And you can see that the Bitcoin price lags the model a little bit, but you can see it does a pretty well job. So it's going along the line, and then the halvening happens, and then eventually the Bitcoin price catches up, it passes the model, comes back down to the model price, and then you have the next halvening, and then the Bitcoin price eventually shoots back up, and then comes back down to the model price. And this was written in March 2019, so now we have more data. We know that it kind of goes along this line. The halvening happened, and now the price is shooting back up again. So once again, the model is showing to be somewhat useful. Now, somebody actually made a live interactive part of this graph on their website. It's digitalik.net, and I'll put a link to it below. I took a couple screenshots of it because it pops up with a bunch of little things near your mouse, so it makes it harder for me to show you what's going on here. But if you look here, the purple line is the stock to flow model. So stock to flow, because the halvenings is very abrupt, the stock to flow shoots up whenever a halvening occurs because the stock has stayed the same, but the amount of flow gets cut in half. So you have these abrupt, the purple line here shows these are really abrupt changes, and then it goes back down. It's pretty much even for the next 4 years. It slightly goes up, and the next halvening happens, shoots up, and then it goes even again. Halvening occurs, shoots up, goes even again. Halvening occurs, shoots up, goes even again. Well, the price of Bitcoin doesn't change quite that rapidly, but if you look at it, the Bitcoin price is the green, blue, red dots, all these dots here, and you can see that after the halvening happens, the price shoots up above the purple line, above the model, comes back down to roughly the purple line until the next halvening occurs, and then eventually the price shoots back up again, comes back down to the purple line, and then the halvening that just occurred right here, and then Bitcoin price is shooting back up again, right? Model is turned out to be pretty useful. Now, if you look at on the website here, it shows the current stock to flow, which is 53.6, right? Because it's that abrupt shoot up after the halvening that just occurred in May 2020. But if you smooth it out, because Bitcoin price doesn't move quite that fast, if you smooth it out and look at a 463-day average instead, the stock to flow would be 36.7. And what that does is it creates this light blue line here, which is just smoothing out everything. So it follows a small blue line, and then it goes above it, comes back down, follows the smooth blue line. See, and then the blue line's right under here, kind of comes up, kind of evens out again, and then it goes back up again. And if you look at right now, even right now, right, the blue line's coming up like this, and our Bitcoin price is kind of hanging out right around there, so it's doing a pretty good job. Now, the stock to flow, the price based on the true stock to flow, which is 53.6, should be $102,000 right now. But Bitcoin price takes a while to catch up to that. So on the model that's 463 days, the Bitcoin price should be $28,800 right now. And what are we currently at? We're at $31,000. So once again, right, no model is correct, is right, because it's just a model, but many are useful, and this one seems to be useful so far. And then on this one, I just zoomed in a little bit better so you guys can see that blue line a little better. But if you can just see here, the Bitcoin price follows that blue line pretty good, overshoots a little bit, comes back down to the blue line, goes a little underneath it, comes back up to it, and then once again, we're following the blue line up. Now, so where are we now? So the Plan B's model says that we would probably hit 100,000 in 2021. The inflation rate is currently 1.7%, right, which is less than the Fed's goals, less than it's just a really reasonable inflation rate, and it only gets lower as time passes, and the stock to flow is currently 53. Now, as I was actually making this video, Plan B just came out and tweeted this. It says, if history is any guidance and Bitcoin continues its current trajectory, Bitcoin could be 100K somewhere between April and September. So look at these graphs here. So this blue line, this light blue one, is the halvening that occurred from 2016, and then it comes out to May 2020. So if you were around for the 2017, Bitcoin bubble, if you would, that's this time right here. That's this graph coming up here. And then if you go back to this dark blue line, that's 2012, and then out to 2016. And you can see right now the red line is where we're at. So May 2020 halving, and then we're coming up here, and he thinks it will hit 100K sometime between April and September. And we'll see. I mean, maybe we will, maybe we won't. We're definitely headed that way. It's definitely in between the previous two halvings. So we'll see. It's looking pretty good so far. Obviously, I just want to say one last time, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Written by George Box. It's actually probably people have probably said that before him, but he's kind of the one that's given credit for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plan B did come up with a second model called a cross-asset model for Bitcoin, which is very interesting. It includes like real estate and diamonds and some other stuff, which we will go over in a future video. If you're interested in this kind of content, we do publish a newsletter once a month. You can check out sovereignfinancials.com. We'll put that link to our website in the link below, in the notes below. And we also, if you're interested in Bitcoin and you want to make sure that you keep it safe and you need to learn the ropes, we provide a service for that too if you guys are interested, to keep on a hardware wallet and make sure it's safe and you don't get hacked and all the other stuff. So we really appreciate you guys watching the video. If you can subscribe, give me a thumbs up. It really helps out. I'm always open to feedback. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about, and we'll kind of go over it. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.